the year, but one of the. And I'm also eating my lunch. So I appreciate your patience while I do that, but I actually didn't eat today because I haven't been feeling well. So I encourage you to go grab something to eat and join me. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. What a year we've had. It's been a long year. And I think us having this community, being together has made quite a difference. It's almost made a big difference in my life. And I hope this community has made a difference in your life this past year, because it really has been very challenging. And yeah, I want to talk a little bit today about watching our own self, watching our internal process. Because, you know, I think one of the things for me that's been the most important, most effective. Thank you, Branka. I'm having eggs and TVP and yellow peppers. Mm. Mm. So one of the most important things for me on this gentle parenting process has been my capacity to look inside. And I try and watch every thought, every interaction, every word, and then I reflect on it. I watch it as it's happening, and then I reflect on it after it's happening. And sorry, I'm just adjusting. And one of the things about that is, in order to do that, we have to set up a certain environment in our heads. You know, I do this a lot, you know, and I do this a lot, and I do this a lot. And one of the reasons for that is, like, I know so much of, and when I do this, I don't mean only the head, I also mean in my heart and in my gut and in my nervous system. I just kind of do this to represent, but like the environment that I set up in here is so important for my effectiveness on how I'm going to be able to look at myself. Because if I am riddled with shame and wrongness, if I'm riddled with shame and wrongness, I'm not going to be able to be open to really looking at the feedback. And it's the same with receiving feedback from other people too, you know, like in GPU all the time. It's different here in Becoming Gentle, which is one of the reasons I love this space. But GPU is 67,000 members. You have people on all ends of the spectrum, and the gentle parenting spectrum. And so you see often in GPU how defensive people get when their ideas are challenged or poked or prodded even a little bit, you know, because it feels to the people that are experiencing it like we're saying you're wrong. Because as a child, of course, as a child, that's the thing about punishment and consequences and wrongness, is we get the idea early on that when we're thinking a certain thing, when we're feeling a certain thing, we are wrong. And so then we fight that wrongness. We either fight it through, like I always say, we either fight it through compliance, resistance, compliance, or distance. Usually it's and, not or. And so we carry those patterns with us throughout our lives until we change them. Often what happens is that even as we're working on them throughout our lives, things happen to us in our lives which actually confirm it. We confirm, excuse me, chewing in your ear. We confirm that, like, our life experiences confirm those things, you know, and because we're seeing them through that lens. So what I want to do instead is I want to shift that. I want to shift my relationship. I want to change my relationship with myself, with my own thoughts, with my own self-analysis. Honestly, self-analysis, self-evaluation is probably I'm going to say one of, because there's a few primary skills to practice, but it's certainly one of the primary skills to practice. And the way it works is well, actually it works. The way I work it is, and the way I share about it is that I look at what are my values, what are my principles that I want to live by. How do I want to respond in certain moments, even if I don't always do it, right? How do I want to respond? How do I want to grow? How do I want to respond to myself and externally? And then I evaluate what happens based on those principles, based on those values and ideals. And if I want to be able to do that consistently, then self-love has to be the foundation of that practice. Because otherwise, there's going to be things that I'm going to push away. And if I push them away, if I see them and I push them away, then I'm continuing a cycle that I'm really wanting to shift, you know? And I've used shift instead of break, because break just sounds a little harsh. It really is cycle breaking. But breaking, you know, if I take something and I break it, I wish I had a pencil here. If I take something and I break it, it's broken, right? And it's like a one-time thing. But shifting is more of a process. And, you know, I like to talk about process more than product. I don't want to talk about like things are an on-off switch. I want them to be in process. I want them to recognize that we're always in process. And that way I can be kinder to myself. And so if I want to shift these patterns, one of the most important things for me to be doing is always to be watching. And just as I say that, I got a notice saying Ashley is watching. And I'm saying watching. I was like, someone repeat my comment? No, it actually just said that from Facebook. But it's watching, right? I don't relax. I don't relax and just go. I mean, I do, but I also don't. Because when I relax completely, it's not only my conscious self that's reacting, it's my iceberg of unconscious reactions that are also relaxing. I don't even want to relax those because they come out coercive, right? So it's one of the reasons that people have asked me, Vivek, how do you do all this for so many years and not be exhausted? And I say, I've been exhausted for 30 years because self-evaluation is exhausting. And as we practice, it can become less painful. This is the thing, right? When I notice that I've acted out of alignment with my kid in some way, because it happens all the time. My first feeling is pain and guilt and wrongness and shame. And so what I do is I have to separate out what part of that pain is like the good pain, which comes from my remorse, which comes from my connection, which comes from my desire to love more. Excuse me, I talk about remorse versus shame, which is the same thing that Brené Brown talks about. She uses guilt and shame. I use remorse and shame because guilt has a whole connotation to it, you know, about being guilty, and you're guilty and you're innocent until proven guilty. And in so many homes, you're guilty until proven innocent, right? But even the whole idea of guilt and innocence, it's based on wrongness. You're either wrong or you're right. You're either good or you're bad. And that way of thinking is very linear, binary. I often say simplified thinking leads to control. Nuance leads to self-awareness. I love that saying. I love it. Simplified thinking leads to control. Both we are controlled and we are controlling when we are thinking in a simplified way. Simplified doesn't mean you have to be always thinking deeply complex. It means being open to seeing many layers, many levels, many aspects of a thing, you know? And everybody okay? Yeah. All right. That was a good one. And it's like what I call the infinite onion, right? The infinite onion means there's layers and layers and layers and layers. And we want to always be aware of that infinite onion. We always want to be peeling that infinite onion and looking at what's the next layer, what's the next layer. And after a while, so when I do act out of alignment, I have the pain that comes from the shame, the past, the wrongness, the way I've been treated growing up. But even it's not only growing up though, because like I said, we have experiences as adults too, which confirm and amplify and deepen those those coercive, painful patterns. And I'm just taking another bite. I'm kind of announcing it every time, even though you can see it, because I'm a little bit embarrassed. I'm a little bit embarrassed to be eating while I'm on phone. I mean, on the call with you. I'm just naming that for myself. But I'm super hungry. I'm taking care of myself a little bit. I probably won't post this video. Probably it's just for you. So when I notice myself having been out of alignment, and a lot of the time, let me say what, let me stay on track. So often I go into different branches and I don't finish what I was saying. When I notice it, I feel the pain. I don't want to run from the pain. I want to discern which part of that pain is the shame from my past and my patterns and the way I hold that. What part of the pain is coming from my sincere desire to not hurt or injure? I'm caring for my impact. Because I do care about my impact. I take care about it. I care about the contribution that I make to the situation, to the system, because we're always making, oh good, I'm glad, thank you. I'm always making an effort to be aware of my impact on the system, and so when I feel that, when I feel it, either because I've noticed inside myself or I've noticed it in my kid, I really need to go inside and do that. I remember yesterday she came into the kitchen at one point when I was in there, and we were talking about something, and she said something, and I said something. I don't remember the exact example, but I was just dying to address it directly in that moment. And I knew, I could see inside my head, I could see I was going to come from a place of wrongness inside of me, not about her, but my own wrongness. And I know when I do that, 100% I'm projected onto her. I have to. And only because I'm not skilled enough not to. So I project it onto her, and then she feels it, and then she feels the wrongness come back to her, and she responds that way. She gets it inside of herself, and this is how I project wrongness onto her, and then she absorbs it. And I didn't want to do that, so I knew that I had to change. So I was about to say it, and I was like, and inside I'm like, and I stopped the words, and I shifted to something else. And then she left the kitchen, and I noticed that moment where I stopped myself from coming at the situation directly, and I focused, and I just was just express something loving and kind and funny or whatever it was. But I stayed away from the topics that I wanted to mention because I could feel all that stuff inside. And as soon as she left the kitchen, I was like, yes, 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 yes. I was so happy with myself because I noticed myself, and I felt into it, and I released my need in that moment. Well, I don't know if I released it, but I controlled it. Sometimes it's a fight, but I controlled it. Not because I thought it would be bad or wrong, but because I understand how it works. I understand the impact. And I mean, it's what I call about dropping a hammer on your toe. If you drop a hammer on your toe, and you know that when you drop the hammer and it falls on your toe, it hurts, don't drop the hammer on your toe. And maybe we have some patterns that cause us to keep doing it, but we can keep working and working at it. And so if I'm holding, but what happens is when I hold the hammer here like this, a lot of the time when I let it go and then it hits my toe, people don't make the connection between the cause and the effect. And they ascribe, and so I'm going around blaming all sorts of things for my toe hurting, including the hammer. When in this case, it was the letting go of my action of letting go of the hammer that caused it. Gravity is a natural response. The weight of the hammer is a natural response. The impact on the toe is a natural response. The only part I had influence on was this part, and that's the part I want to focus on, right? Letting go of the hammer. So I don't want to drop a hammer on my toe. I don't want to drop wrongness onto my kid. I know exactly. Even if it's my wrongness, I know, like I said, I know it's going to project. And that's my saying, no repression, no projection. Don't repress it. I didn't want to repress it. And I didn't want to project it. Because projection leads to repression, and repression leads to projection. So instead, I just bit my tongue. And then what I do at that point is I go inside, right? And you can see even now, just now unconsciously, I'm stroking my chest. And, oh, someone's calling. Sorry, my friend. can't talk to you right now. So I'm trying to be really kind to myself. And I say try because, again, it doesn't always come naturally. So I try and be really kind to myself. Gentle, okay, Vivek, you did this. Now you saw the impact. Now what are you going to do? First, kind to myself, loving to myself. Really, really important. And we don't have that instinct. You know, when we were young, most of us didn't have the education, weren't given the education and the training, the experience. When you make a mistake, you be soft with yourself. I can't talk to you right now, Jenny. I'm going live. Goodness, I just cannot talk to you right now. Anyway, so I go inside and I am feeling my pain and I'm feeling my shame, but I'm also feeling my remorse. I'm feeling both, right? So I separate the two out, and the pain that's based in shame, that pain I love. I give love to it. I give empathy to it. I hold it. And you know, if you've ever done the stress monster meditation with me, that's one of the stressful feelings, right? So I hold it, and I actually look into its eyes like it's a hurting child, and I say, I love you, and I understand you, and I'm here for you. So I give a lot of compassion to myself for those painful feelings, you know, because otherwise you end up really harsh with yourself. And I see so many people, young people and older people like me. I'm about to turn 52 in like 3 days. I'm going to be 52, and I see a lot of people in that circumstance being really harsh with themselves. And of course, those patterns are implanted in us, you know. Now, my instinct, my habit is to mostly slow down and calm myself and love myself. And I take the time to do it, you know. And so I slow that down and I'm kind to myself and I really feel into that shame. Little Vivek is feeling it. I talk about little Vivek a lot. If you come on the coaching calls on a regular basis with me, you know how often I talk about little Vivek and little Christina and little Nicole and little Branka and little Shivani. And I talk about we all have that little one inside of us hurting and just aching for love and not feeling seen and not feeling that sense of belonging. So let's give that little one who's fully present with us, let's give that little one the love that they deserve, that they want, that they're calling out for, longing for. And a lot of the time we are really responsible for giving ourselves that love. Okay, I'm gonna have to talk to Jenny. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Jenny, my dear, I'm sorry, but I'm on one of my live classes right now. That's why I keep hanging up on you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'm going back to it. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. She was going to keep calling every 5 minutes. So if I didn't stop, if I didn't do that, so I had to just answer the call quickly. All right. Yes. So what was I saying? Right, loving myself. So on this side, with the pain on this side, I'm giving lots of love and compassion. The pain on this side, this is the remorse pain. The pain on this side isn't based in shame. It's based in connection. It's based in my deep connection to other human beings, you know, and feeling it. That's what empathy is largely based in our connection with other people, you know. And so, and I'm going to describe that connection and where that remorse comes from a little bit more. But when I feel that part of the pain, I don't need to be as gentle with. I don't need to, because that pain, I know that pain comes from my loving nature, my desire to love, I ache to love. You know, I ache to love more than I do. I've been practicing this for 30 years. I still ache to love every day more than I do, you know? And again, the part of me that aches to love that says, oh, Vivek, you're not loving enough, you're not good enough. That part of me over here, that's the part that I'm like, oh, it's okay. You're perfect exactly as you are. You're perfect exactly as you are. It seems like a contradictory message to the pain over here, which says, and what I say for this pain, I say, let it burn. I've always said that. Well, I love that. And I say, let it burn, and it burns away. What it does is that burning, it burns away obstructions. It burns a path clearer, a path to myself, a path to my values, a path to my capacity to love. This pain is a powerful pain, and the burning of this pain frees us, opens us, educates us, creates deeper patterns in us. It's like there's a beauty in this pain. This pain over here that's full of shame does the opposite. It takes us away from our learning, right? It takes us away because it hurts too much, because it's about us. This pain is like, I am a loving being and I want to be more of that. Yes, yes, yes. That's what this pain is. This pain is, you're terrible, Vivek. How could you do that to your child? You hurt your child? What kind of person are you? And you don't even deserve to be a parent. Why are you even a parent? So I have both of these, right? One of my things is that sometimes you just can't avoid pain, but the question is which pain, and that's my thing, which pain. And so right now I'm in the midst of kind of gathering all of the different philosophies and strategies and concepts that I've been creating and teaching over the years, because there's a lot. And I'm writing them all down, and I'm finally compiling them because they're all over the place. They're on my blog and on YouTube and on Facebook and here, and then all my one-liners. I have so many one-liners. It's like I have a one-liner for every single occasion. And I haven't really written all of them down. Probably like 15, 20% of my one-liners have I actually ever written down. So many of them are in my head and I just bring them out. And this thing about which pain is one of them. Which pain am I feeling? And so that idea is, I want to let the pain, that's the remorse, that doesn't have self-condemnation attached to it, but it's a pain that I value. It's a pain that comes from my values. That pain I love, and I want it to burn. I want it to burn inside of it, because it actually, there's a joy and a beauty in that pain. But then I have the other pain that, again, I'm going back and forth with this a little bit extra because I really want to impress this, that I have the other pain that's the shame-based pain, and that pain I want to love myself through, and I don't want to project it onto my kid. So once I'm able to notice the two kinds of pain, and at that point I'm able to discern them and hold them, and the one that's the shame-based pain, I'm not fighting. It's just kind of, it knows its place. It's sitting there. It's relaxed. And then the remorse pain, the pain that's based in love and connection, that pain, I let it be part of my guidance. It's not my whole guidance, but it's part of my guidance. It informs my guidance. Yeah. And so then I focus on that. I focus on that feeling, on both really in their way. And that's when I start to really relax. And then I start to, then I can start to really look at the moment, really look at the situation that I'm trying to change, or really look at sorry, I have a bit of a headache today also. So every now and then I might just stop and do this. So then I look at the situation. I can look at much more honestly, much more rigorously, because I'm not blaming myself for it. It's like, of course you would do that, Vivek. Of course you would do that. You're a tangled mess of trauma and pain and patterns that you had no choice in. Of course you're going to do that. I love you. You're going to do that. It's okay. And you're going to do it again. Even though you're working on it today, you're still going to do it again tomorrow. And that's okay. So I say that, and then from that place, I can go, okay, let me look at what I did. Let me look into it closely. Let me look at where those thoughts came from, where the feelings came from, what were the words that I used, and what can I do differently? And then I work on it and I think about it. And if there's if an apology is necessary, because sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And what I mean by that is sometimes an external apology is necessary, but sometimes it's better to create the apology relationally in how you shift your behavior and shift your thoughts and feelings. And the apology kind of manifests in the relationship organically. Even if we do the other kind of apology where we do go directly and apologize, which I think is also really important, Even if we do that, the other organic, relational, environmental apology that continues is I want it to happen also. So in both cases, I want to do that, but sometimes, like let's say you apologized 4 times yesterday and you don't want to apologize a 5th. Because it's like, why am I still apologizing? I'm still doing the same thing. Okay, so don't apologize necessarily, but you're really working on it. Or maybe you feel like you're at a point in your relationship where, with your kid or anyone, where the apology isn't going to be really well received. Maybe they're too upset, and you're like, okay, I can't apologize right now. It's not really going to work out. So you really want to have some nuance around how you're noticing that moment. Either way, I start to work on the relational apology, right? So then, because I'm coming at it from a cleaner place inside, because my shame is no longer controlling the show, it's not gone, but I'm not projecting it. I'm not repressing it. I'm loving it, but I'm not projecting it because I'm holding it in its place. It has a container. It has a loving, safe container to experience and to feel. And so then I can start to really think about that. So then I notice it. I like, okay, well, so for example, there was a moment a few days ago where my daughter came to me with some idea that she had, and I didn't agree with her idea. And the way I didn't agree with it, I could feel that she felt it. She felt I didn't take it in, you know? And then I kind of backtracked, but it was kind of too late because I could feel the impact. And then she was explaining herself and when you feel wrong, and there can be a desire to explain, to try and explain away that wrongness. And I call that wrong-splaining. I love wrong-splaining. Well, I don't love wrong-splaining. I love the word wrong-splaining because it's very clever, and I love my clever words, as you know. And so wrong-splaining is really powerful. When I notice someone is wrong-splaining, especially if I've been the catalyst for the wrong-splaining. I mean, the wrong-splaining is pre-existing, but the tendency to wrong-splain is pre-existing, but we can certainly set it off. And so when I notice my kid is wrong-splaining as a result of something I've done, I know I have to tune in. I know I have to take care. I know I have to watch for my tendencies to do that, right? And so she explained something, and I came back at it, and I argued a little bit, and she felt unseen, and she started to explain. And I switched, and I reversed, and I went back, and I listened, and I agreed. But I also noticed, Vivek, if this has happened, and I hadn't seen it before, now I can see, oh yes, it happens more often. Now I can think, okay, well, I need to notice this pattern in myself. First, I felt that. First, I was like, I can't believe I did that to her. Vivek, you're a teacher. You teach this stuff. Right. But then I'm like, Vivek, you teach because you're learning it, not because you're perfect at it. Come on, bro. And I'm like, okay. And so I talked myself down. I'm like, you're okay, Vivek. Yes, she's 23, but I mean, you thought you were going to stop making mistakes at some point? No, my friend, you're okay. You're okay. Okay. And I take that breath. And then I start looking for it. So now I'm looking for other times where I do it. Yeah. And it happened yesterday again. And I was like, but you just thought of it the day before. So right, the first thing happened the day before, and then the second one happened yesterday. It just happened the day before. And already you did it again. Well, yeah, of course. I can't, just noticing the pattern doesn't make it shift. The shift takes work. It takes practice. It takes consciousness, you know? This is one of the reasons that I talk about practice all the time. That's why one of my sayings is there's nothing you can practice that you won't get better at. So I want to really notice that there's something for you to practice. But still, yesterday we were playing piano together. We got an electric piano, and we were playing together and just having a wonderful time. We spent like 2 hours playing piano together. It was fun. And at one point she said, Dad, I think this song will take me a year to learn. And I'm trying to be encouraging, right? So I said, hey, kiddo, I think you could do it quicker than that. And she said, no, I think it would take me a year. I said, yeah, but as you go along in learning, your skill gets better, and so you'll learn faster. And so if your skill level now, whatever it is, it would take you 2 years, but you're going to increase that, or it'd take you 1 year, so you would increase that, so you would actually learn faster as you went along. I thought it was very smart. And she said, I already took that into account when I came up with my year estimate. I was like, ah, I said, no. I pushed away that idea rather than being open and listening to it and really listening to it and being curious about it. Vivek, you're teaching curiosity and you're not doing it. What's going on? Well, could you hear a little bit of the shame and blame in my voice just now? It just creeped in a little bit there, right? So that means I can still have some, as I'm bringing up the story and the emotions come up again, then I'm noticing my feelings around it come up again, real, and I just felt it in my voice. And I'm doing this because it's coming from this side, the pain that was coming from this side. And if you just joined, you don't know what I mean, you'll have to watch from the beginning. I was talking about 2 kinds of pain. The pain I hold on this side, which is shame-based, and the pain I hold on this side, which is love-based. The love-based pain I love, and I feel it deeply. The shame-based pain I also feel, but I do it in a tight container full of compassion and empathy. And I was like, you don't need that shame. But even just now, it came out as I was saying it. So that was good. It was a clue for me that it's still in there, right? I need to keep loving that shame pain so that the remorse pain can have more of an impact. And but I did it yesterday. Yeah. And then when she said that, I was like, oh, you already took that into account. Of course you took that into account. Of course you took that into account. But there was that argumentative little moment there, right? I didn't respond embracingly first. I didn't respond with the curiosity first. And again, like as I'm saying this, I'm remembering when I was in the car with my kid yesterday at one point, and I was telling her a story about a parent who did the very same thing, and how her kid would, like, every time she would try and talk to them, the kid would run away, wouldn't want to hear it. And it was the same kind of example, that the kid would share something and the parent would start by saying, no, it's not really that, it's really this, and then would change, but it's also that. And so, but by the time they got to the, but it's also that, and yes, you're right. By the time they got to that, the no was the pushing away was already done, and the impact was done. It was, well, not done, but the impact had happened. And so I said, and so I often tell my kid about the conversations that I have and the things that I'm learning. And I said, and so what I advised her was, next time, really try and focus on curiosity first. And my kid said, yeah, what she did was she said no and then yes, instead of yes and then no. And I was like, that's brilliant. She said, I love putting things in simple ways, like just taking your like a whole big philosophy that you would come up with and spend an hour on. And I like to encapsulate it in like simple phrases. And I said, I love that. She goes, actually, I think I might have learned that from you, because you're always talking about simplifying. I said, yeah. And so we had that beautiful moment, and still the next day I did it. So if I'm telling you, like, learning is a lifetime event. It's always going to be there. I'm just gonna take a moment to chew, excuse me. So, by the way, if you just came on, I haven't eaten all day, so I'm just having a little bite as we go. I always feel like y'all are just in my house with me. I'm literally just on my couch where I always am. I haven't set up a special place for doing these lives. I just bring you with me to my couch. And we're all just hanging out together, having some tea in my apartment. And talking about life. So this is like really present for me, right? This is really alive for me right now. I can feel, and then as that's been happening, I've been noticing in my own life, my own relationship, how hard I am on myself when I make mistakes. It's like a whole other level of it is being revealed to me these days. I'm really seeing it. And I often think when a new level of self-awareness comes to me, it's because I've evolved enough, I've developed myself enough, I've learned enough to a point where I'm able to receive it, where I'm able to take it in. And because I think our consciousness has a certain self-regulating mechanism in it that keeps things from us when we can't handle it and reveals it to us when we can. And one of the reasons I do the self-evaluation work so intensely is because the more I do it, the more comfortable I am doing it, the more I get used to it, the more I can hold my self-evaluation in a positive framework, the more my consciousness reveals to me about myself. And just in the last little while, I've been feeling how certain mistakes I made, how bad I feel, you know? I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to be ostracized, I'm going to be judged, and it hurts so much. And even the people that even the people that love me and accept me the most, you know, my partner, my kid, my mom, I get my sister, I get so afraid, and you know, like Sujai and I are like, Sujai's my best friend. I love Sujai. She's everything to me. We're more and more we work together, the more we're becoming one person, even though we're quite different in a lot of things and our expressions and stuff. But the two of us are really like, we're becoming one person. It's really quite amazing. The more we work together, the more that's happening. And even with her, the way she loves me and has accepted me for so many years, hardly has ever experienced that in my life. From the day I joined GPU and we started to become friends, every time I make a mistake, or every time I have something to tell her that I you know, like is challenging, I'm always thinking, oh, she's doesn't want to, she's not going to love me and she's going to reject me, and she's never done anything to actually indicate that. That's this pain, right? So as I've been noticing this, it's a blessing. It's a painful blessing, but it's a blessing because now I can see how that stuff, that big pile of stuff, is projecting onto my kid, you know, and layering it onto her. So now I have the opportunity to shift that pattern, because I mean, she's 23, sure, but that doesn't mean the work is done, right? I can still help her with that pattern. We can still shift it together, because I'm shifting the pattern in me and working to help her shift the pattern in her. Because that wrong-splaining sucks, man. It sucks. When you get caught, if you've done wrong-splaining, and wrong-splaining, I mentioned earlier, when you feel wrong and you start to try and explain yourself so that you can get rid of the wrongness, you know, at least the other person doesn't see you as wrong. And but we were trying to be okay. We're trying to see ourselves as okay. So we're explain. I call that wrong-splaining. And so I don't want her caught up in wrong-splaining. I don't. Now I know I'm not the only influence in that. I know that, because you know, our kids, they experience many influences at school, if they do school, other adults, and the media, and all sorts of things. They have all sorts of influences, right? So what we have is access to, we have primary access to one area of influence, which is us. I know I have primary influence over over how I interact with her, my impact on her. So that's where I focus most of my efforts. I also work on the environment, and I work on the relationships that I have some direct access to as well. For example, you know, I mean, this is what I do. This is what I do all the time. I'm always helping parents, so I have a good idea. So if my mom says something that's out of alignment, or my sister or my wife, and I think, oh, they would appreciate knowing that this might have this impact, then I share it with them. So I have my first circle of influence, which is me, and a broader circle of influence, which is the people that are open to it, you know. And then there's a broader sphere of influence, which is maybe other people and environmental stuff, and that's much harder for me to influence. The further we get out from the center, the harder it is for me to influence those things, right? I can influence the school to some degree. I mean, I was fortunate that I was stay-at-home dad, so I was able to go into the school and volunteer. I was able to get to know the staff, and I was always thanking the staff, always appreciating them, bringing donuts to the office all the time, and And I really, and I volunteered, and I was assistant coaching the teams as a volunteer. And I was always that parent that was always there, but somehow the teachers didn't feel like I was an impediment or a problem. Yeah. Because even though I treated the kids like I do, peacefully, respectfully, I still helped the teachers feel that I really valued them. It was a very challenging line to walk. I didn't get it perfect all the time, but even to this day, I'm friends with a lot of the teachers from elementary school and middle school, because they got to know me so well, because I was just always around. And high school, my daughter asked me to take a step back. She was like, Dad, I'm going into grade 9. High school's a different thing. I'd like you to take a step back from volunteering. Not because she didn't like it. Right up to the last day of grade 8, it was a wonderful experience because we were always together. So her evolution of wanting that independence from me didn't come from not wanting me to be there. It came from wanting to spread into her own independence, which is very different. She's not pushing me away. It wasn't that. And this is really important because a lot of people, I'm kind of switching topics, but a lot of people think that independence comes from a break, from pushing away. It doesn't have to be like that, and independence can be held in a way that when they're ready in their time and what's right for them, they spread their wings and then they fly into their own life, right? And that happens in small ways, little ways, and it happens in bigger ways. And we always have to be kind of watching for when to jump in and be there, and when that spreading of the wings happens, and it's always kind of both. Because even a 2-year-old is starting to spread their wings once they start to discover that they have capacity, right? And it's no different with a 23-year-old. I mean, it's different, but it's also no different. And for me, I'm 52 and I'm still spreading my wings, right? Because for me, my parents are kind of in here mostly, I say that humorously because my mom's watching this, but I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about my relationship with her now. But my relationship with the parent inside of me, because it's a lifetime process. I was going to say I didn't get that, but my mom really, I just want to say that Shivani was the original cycle breaker in our family. I take all the credit for it because here I am teaching. I've got like an audience of like 100,000 people right now. So I'm the one in the celebrity limelight. But my mom is the one who really started this whole cycle breaking. She fought against the traditional mindset that was being imposed on her. Fought it. My dad, my grandparents on both sides, and all friends and family and everything, all the messages, all of them were the coercive parenting messages. I mean, it hasn't changed that much since then, right? Because just go on to any parenting post, even in GPU with 67,000 members, but especially outside of GPU, because we have the most amazing, powerful admin team and we're all in there and we're like with the posts. And I just feel so grateful to be part of this team. And we all operate from this really profound, deep, gentle parenting philosophy. But you go outside of GPU and some other places that are very similar, like Peaceful Parenting Community, Eric's group, also has a very deep rooted in this non-coercive collaborative mindset. But in most of the places, it's just not like that. And so so this is what I was talking about. I'm not the only influence, right? There's lots of these different influences. But my mom, she really started the cycle breaking. I remember she tells stories like when I was young, I had opened the fridge to take milk out and I spilled the jug of milk and it was all over the floor. And I was really upset. Because I had this instinct. You make a mistake, you're in trouble, right? You're bad. It's a problem. And she says, what we did was, I said, hey, Vivek, let's get down on the floor and let's play with it instead. And so we sat on the floor and we were playing the milk. We were splashing it and we were kind of wishing it around and making patterns. And the whole thing just became kind of light. And then we cleaned it up together, like effortlessly cleaned it up together. And I always remembered that story. I was like, wow, that's the thing, Like same with my sister. I don't remember the exact story, but it was something like something like we had this really, really nice, we had a living room in the old house back in North York. We had a living room, and then we had a family room. The family room was where the kids could play. The living room was like pristine for guests. And had a very nice sofa set there. And so I remember my sister, I don't know what happened exactly. She drew on it, and then I think she got in trouble or something. And then my mom said, "Hey, if you really want to draw on the couch, let's just go around to the back of the couch." And there was like this, you could go around and you couldn't really see it from the room, and we'll just draw there. And she actually ended up having a corner of the couch where my sister was allowed to draw on the couch, and she would draw with her. Like, we're talking, my sister was born in the early 70s, so this is how long ago my mom was thinking this way. You know, when we would go into stores, like she would go into we would go into like a store with a lot of breakable stuff. Yeah. And she would say, "Hey, Vivek, why don't we play a trick on everybody in the store?" And most of the time, people don't take kids into that store because they think, "Oh, the kids can't handle themselves. Why don't we go scare everybody in the store?" And they think that you're going to drop everything, but really you're not gonna, because you're going to put your hands behind your back and you'll be really careful. And you and I will know that we're really careful, but everybody else won't know it, and it'll be like this fun thing. And I'd be like, "Yeah, let's scare everybody." And in order to scare everybody, the way I did it was I was very responsible, and I paid real close attention to my environment. And I felt so seen, and I felt like the two of us were together and so connected. And also these kind of things, they stuck in my consciousness. Did she also punish? Yes, that happened too. And but the deeper impact on me was those moments, right? Those moments that I still remember when I was like 17, 18 years old, driving home one day, and just as I was rounding the corner to get home, it was late at night, I fell asleep at the wheel. And I ended up sideswiping another car, and then I didn't know that, and only after hitting it, I opened my eyes, and I was like, "Oh crap!" And I drove home. I didn't really know what happened until I got out, and I just ran in the house, and I was like a little bit upset, and I was quite upset, and I was like really activated, and I came in, and I was really concerned. I was like, "It's her car. She's going to be upset." She asked me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes, I'm okay." She said, "Are you sure you're okay?" She said, "That's the only thing I care about." It hit me so hard in that moment. I was like, "What? I deserve that kind of love? Somebody can talk to me that way, even though I made such a big mistake?" I mean, I had all this other mistake stuff in me, yes, but moments like that has such a profound effect on me. So, so, uh, so then I have my kid, and I have all this memory and patterns in me, and I'm like, well, I want to do it differently. But what I had that she didn't have was I didn't have first of all, I didn't have all this family and environment that was imposing all these ideas. So I had a certain amount of freedom around that. I had a partner that was on board with the idea. So I had that. I had her at that point who was super on board with the idea because she wanted me to take what she did. She wanted me to take it further. She didn't want me to do the same. She wanted me to take it further, right? And so I had her support. And then the people who didn't support, I'm not suggesting this is a strategy, but we cut people out left, right, and center, you know. And I was always telling people, "Listen, this is how we treat our kid. If you want us to come to your house, this is what you have to do. Otherwise, we're not coming." And I would go and I would tell them, "This is what we're going to do, and if you don't abide by this, we won't come back." And then we just wouldn't come back. We just wouldn't do it because we knew what we were doing was so important. I am not suggesting that as a strategy. I'm just saying that's what we did. There are other ways to engage in it. Now I might do things differently because I understand more about communication, and I understand more about, expressing ideas. And I had no idea about nonviolent communication back then. And so I probably would have done a little less cutting out. Maybe. I don't know. But I had a lot more going for me. Plus, I had access to information, maybe not in the first 10 years or so, because there's no internet. And I didn't know anybody in the world was parenting the way we were. But even to this day, with gentle parenting being much more prevalent, still the way we do things around here is more extreme than 90% of what's out there, you know? And that's one of the beautiful things about this space, is this space, the Becoming Gentle space, what I love about it, and this is where I started, I was talking about how much I value this community, that this gentle parenting space, it's non-judgmental, it's full of love and compassion, and we're doing that because we really want to always be moving towards the non-coercive collaborative mindset, non-coercive collaborative relationships with our kids. And so that's, and doing that in community, doing that together, it alleviates some of the burden. And I know sometimes some of you, when you're having a harder time, when you're yelling at your kids more, and you feel shame about that, and then you pull away from the group. I understand that, I really do, because that's what shame does, right? It sends us into a spiral. It takes our mistakes and then amplifies and amplifies until the spiral is like we're spiraling down and down and down, and we can't even see ourselves anymore, let alone even have the thought of potentially going in to a group and saying, this is what's happening to me, you know, and exposing that. Ugh. But I really want to hope that we as a group can hold space for each other in those moments, for each other, really. I want to hope that as we grow and evolve more together, that people feel comfortable, like really leaning into the group. And I say the group because it's not just Sujai and I, you know, like if there's 100, 150, 200 people in this group, I want us to feel like we're a community supporting each other. Because you don't have, imagining that we have to be perfect in order to support other people is, it means nobody could support anyone, you know? Certainly not me. I'm not perfect. I mean, I just talked about a whole bunch of things I did just today. I'm a little further down the road because my kid's 23 and I've been practicing every day for 23 years. You practice something every day for 23 years, you're going to get good at it, right? And so I'm pretty good at it. But at the same time, I make mistakes every single day. And we're all making mistakes together. We're all mistake-making machines, and we do it together, and we learn together, and we support each other, you know? And I really value that about this group. And I want to encourage you as we move into a new year, as this group starts to shift and grow and change, because I think things are happening in this group right now. One of the things that we're doing right now is the Facebook group. We're removing people from the Facebook group who aren't in the podia, who aren't in the membership group, because people have been added kind of over time. In the beginning, we added a bunch of people just because we were trying to fill up the group like 2 years ago. And then when the podia switch came, a number of people chose not to transfer away from Patreon. And so in the next week or two, the group is going to get smaller and smaller until it's just the people who are on the monthly program. Now, of course, I'm saying that this is not about the money necessarily. I say necessarily because it also is, but it's not really about the money, because if you can't afford it but are dedicated to the work, we really want you here. And Sujai and I will always work out something with you. Both of us have lived a lot of our lives, you know, on the edge of not having any money. I myself, in our family, we've been through that so much. You know, there was like a couple of years in the early days when friends were buying groceries for us because we couldn't even afford to buy groceries. And even now, when I'm going to events and stuff, I always have to ask for the scholarship rates. You know, I go to not the last year because of COVID, but I go to a lot of dance events because I'm a dancer, and I always have to ask for some assistance, some financial assistance in that. And so I know what that's like, and I know how hard that can be. You know, there's a lot of shame attached to that too. Money has a lot of shame attached to it. And it doesn't help that so many people relate to money coercively. So I have all this aside. I don't want to project that on other people. So we really care about the people wanting to do the work, really, really do the work, and we want to support you. And so this community, full of people who are really dedicated to the work, not perfect, but dedicated, right? There's a difference, committed, dedicated, working on it. If you find yourself slipping, if you find yourself that you're, you're not seeing yourself, and you're not seeing the peaceful path, and the anger is coming out more, and the stress is coming out more, and you're not happy with the way you parent. But lean into the group a little bit. Put up a message, even if it's not a message asking for solutions, just a message asking for empathy. I need some empathy because I yelled at my kid. It's really, and then you'll get like a flood of messages. Really hard. We know, we've been there. Take some time to yourself. Do some meditation. We love and accept you as you are. And then as members of the group, let's bring that to our game too, right? Let's go into the posts and let's look at who's suffering in these posts, and let's lend our hand to each other. Let's create a beautiful community here for each other. And I think that's something we have a great opportunity to do here. And the more we do that, the more we learn those lessons for ourselves too. And yeah. So the main point that I was talking about through all of this has been self-evaluation, self-reflection. When I go to sleep every night, before I fall asleep, sometimes it's sleep, sometimes it's here on the couch before I go to bed, the bedroom. I look over my day, and I think, what were the moments that I was happy with? What were the moments that I was not so happy with? And what were the moments that I really, really, really am not happy with? And I just look at them. I look at them. I don't run from them. I look at them. I hold myself in as much compassion as I can, and I look. And then I think, okay, tomorrow is another day. I have another opportunity. And now I know this pattern. I have this pattern, right? I told you I got the pattern that I'm projecting wrongness onto my kid. I see it now. I hadn't seen it before. I'm sure the pattern has always been there. It's not a new pattern, but my understanding keeps growing. I'm able to see finer and finer layers and levels of my own self. And as I do that, I'm able to work on deeper and deeper things. That's, as I mentioned earlier, I said, simplified thinking leads to control, nuance leads to self-awareness. And I love that. I want to look at deeper and deeper levels. I want to look at that onion. And so every night, daily self-evaluation, I go through that. And I do both. I think about the things that happened well, like that moment where I was really happy in the kitchen where I bit my tongue and I said something non-coercive instead of projecting my shame onto my kid. And I really had to struggle in that moment. I mean, it was a split second, but I had to struggle to change the words that were coming out of my mouth. But I did, and it felt really good. And then I think about the times where I did project wrongness, or I did do something out of alignment, or I wasn't very conscious in how I was, or I let my anger or my pain come out and project onto my kid. And I think about those things, and I feel them, and I notice them, and I make a commitment. Tomorrow I'm going to work on it, and I'm actually doing it now. Tomorrow I'm going to pay even more attention to the wrongness. If I'm projecting wrongness, if I'm feeling that wrongness, I'm projecting it, and I want to respond with curiosity. I want to respond with yes and no. I want to respond with the yes before the no, not the no before the yes, like my kid said earlier, right? And because I noticed that there's a no that's coming up for me. I don't want that no to come up. No, I don't. That was remorse. That wasn't shame. That was remorse. Like I'm excited about this idea. I can see it now. I can see that there's a no. I have a no, and I don't want that no. And we all have habitual no's. The no's. We all have habitual no's, and noticing them, and then redirecting them is really powerful. And that's what the self-evaluation, so much of that is about. So that's my thing. That's what I'm working on right now. What are you working on right now? What is it that you're that you're trying to a pattern you're trying to shift that you've noticed? What is a pattern that that has been weighing heavy on you? It can be a thinking pattern. It can be a behavior pattern. Often it's both. A feeling pattern. Often it's all three. And how can you shift it? How can you start to shift it? Because just like I talk about with our kids, that when I want to shift a pattern with kids, I take a long-term view. I'm like, okay, I can't. If I rush into shifting it now, I'm going to rush. I'm going to push. But if I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start to shift the environment, start to shift the way I relate, start to shift the messages. Look for different ways that I can, SMABO ways that I can bring up the messages. SMABO, by the way, I use it assuming everybody knows what it means. SMABO is my acronym for small moments affect big ones. And SMABO is about looking at the small moments of life, and how they influence our experience. You know, like throughout a regular day, the small moments account for probably 90% of the day, you know, 80-90% of the day. And the big moments that really stick out in our mind are like 10-20%. And if we can have the same kind, and if we can have the same kind of awareness on the small moments that the big moments kind of demand of us, and we really tune into those small moments and we work them, we can affect the big moments quite profoundly. And so now I'm like, I'm going to watch for my SMABO wrongness. I'm going to watch for it when I feel it inside, watch for it when I'm tempted to project it onto her. And it's a whole new discovery for me. And this discovery necessarily has pain attached to it. I'm going back to the pain for a second, because being able to be comfortable, being able to bear pain and still love ourselves through it is one of the pain. I can also use the word discomfort. Being able to sit with our discomfort, being able to sit with our pain and not run from it is so important. Because then if I can hold that pain, if I can hold that discomfort, then I can really look at the things that I want to shift, you know? And that's why I like to say, I'm perfect exactly as I am and I want to change. That's why my one-liner is, I love you exactly as you are, always change. And one of the, because you know, the typical thing is, I love you exactly as you are, never change. But I say, I love you exactly as you are, always change. And because it brings the two of those things together, you know. Have I written that one down? I don't think I've written that one down. Can someone put that in the comments for me? Because I don't want to forget that one. I want to put that on my list. But I really love that. I love you exactly as you are, always change. So in this moment, you're perfect exactly as you are. You don't need to change, and always change, because you're always changing anyways. Whether you like it or not, whether you want to or not, we're always changing. Every word I speak right now is changing me. Somehow, some way is changing me. Let's engage with that change consciously. Let's engage with that change in accordance with our principles, in accordance with what we know, how the brain works, how emotions work, how relationships work. You know, we get stuck trying to force things from the old mindset, but it doesn't work that way. We know it doesn't work that way. You know, I was with a 10-year-old friend of mine recently, and we spent an hour together, and I hadn't seen him for a couple of years. And going through some really hard times. And we spent an hour together walking through the woods and you know, hitting sticks on trees and breaking ice in ravines and stuff. And it was really beautiful. And the whole time I was doing my Vivek thing. I was speaking empowerment to him. I was showing real curiosity about what he was experiencing. He would say things that most people would just let go, and I would ask probing questions about it. This is one of the things I love to do with kids. If a kid says something, anything, I want to know. I want to know what that's about. I want to know what they're thinking. You know, even if it's like ridiculous and silly to adults, and even if it's ridiculous and silly to them, I want to know. So after the hour, we went back and we were sitting with his mom, and the three of us were sitting around a campfire, and and at one point he just turned to me out of the blue and he goes, "Vivek, if you were a kid, we'd be best friends." And I said, "You know what, kiddo? I think we could do it anyways." He goes, "Yeah." It didn't occur to him. Yeah. And it was from an hour of validation, an hour of going along with the things that normally he might not have had real embracing and being embraced for, you know. And so you know, we do know that when we come at things from a positive, confirming, affirming, embracing, validating, and educating, guiding, modeling way, that's why I model, guide, friend. If we know that and we believe that and we practice it, then that's what we focus on as we do the self-evaluation, and we think, tomorrow I'm gonna work even more at this. I'm gonna figure out where are the areas that I need to shift, and I'm gonna shift them. because that way we're training ourselves to let go of the old mindset. All right, everybody, I think I'm done. The self-evaluation, really important. Loving yourself through it, really important. Knowing the kind of pain, which pain. You know, sometimes pain is unavoidable, and the question is which pain, right? Do we take the shame pain, or do we take the pain based in my awareness of myself as a loving being and wanting to be more in alignment with that love? The shame pain I hold, the love pain I feel. Evaluate self-evaluation every day. Watching myself. Like I said, the evaluation. I mostly talked about the post-evaluation, but the evaluation also happens in the moment as well. Watching as I'm speaking, I'm watching, I'm listening. Even earlier in the conversation, I said, "Did you hear the shame in my voice?" Because I'm listening to myself as I talk. This is why the self-observation meditation is so important, because I'm listening to myself as I talk. Because I want to hear it. I want to understand what I'm saying, and I feel the emotional content. So I'm always listening, watching as I talk. Always, I try and always. I don't know always. Always is grandiose, but I try. And it's one of my practices, right? To listen to myself as I talk. And so the self-evaluation is really important. The self-observation is really important, and holding all of that in kindness and compassion. And leaning in, and again, I just want to end by, again, offering you to lean into our community. If you're feeling that shame and that embarrassment or whatever, if you're feeling like you've slipped away from the gentle path, we're with you. We're here for you, and we love you. So please, please be kind to yourself, and let's look forward to a really beautiful year together. You know, learning and growing and evolving together and learning together. I said learning twice. And please follow me on Facebook if you haven't already. Follow me on Meaningful Ideas on Facebook. Follow me on YouTube. I'd really love to. I've just crossed 500 users, subscribers on YouTube. I'd love to add some zeros to that number. So follow me on YouTube, also Meaningful Ideas, and Instagram also, where you know, a couple of months ago, Alanis Morissette shared one of my sayings, and so Instagram as well, and Twitter, which I've like never on, but follow me on Twitter too. But really, especially Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, I'd love you to follow me. My website is kind of a jumbled mess right now, so I'm not actually going to suggest that you go to my website yet, because I'm kind of reworking it. But I'd love for you to do that. And that's it, everybody. I love you. My thoughts are with you, and we're in this together. All right. Peace out. Oh, and I'm going to end my live stream on YouTube too. I also went live on YouTube just as an experiment. And now I'm going to end that one too, but I have to end it through Zoom, so I'm going to do that. Hello, YouTube, and bye YouTube. One person was watching YouTube. Shannon was